10 Key Real Estate Concepts You Can't Afford to Miss. Part 1. In real estate law, a contract entered into with a minor is not automatically void. Instead, it is considered voidable at the option of the minor. This means the minor has the legal right to either enforce or cancel the agreement, while the adult party remains legally bound to perform. The protection exists because minors are presumed to lack the full capacity to understand contractual obligations. Only the minor has the right to back out of such a contract, not the adult. A contract is described as executory when one or more obligations remain to be performed by one or both parties. Until those conditions are met, the agreement is not yet fully executed. Once every requirement is satisfied, such as financing approval or completion of agreed repairs, the executory contract transitions into an executed contract, meaning it is complete and binding with no further performance due. For a contract to be legally valid and enforceable, it must contain certain essential elements: mutual agreement, contractual capacity, and a lawful and possible objective. Without these, the contract cannot be upheld in court. The term consequence is not among these required elements and therefore has no impact on the validity of the agreement. If an agreement lacks one of the true essentials, it is either void or voidable depending on the situation. A valid real estate contract requires not only that both parties agree on the terms, but also that acceptance of the offer is communicated back to the offeror. Simply signing a document is not enough. The party making the offer must be informed of the acceptance before the contract becomes binding. Earnest money, while customary, is not a legal requirement. The missing element that prevents enforceability in this case is communication of acceptance. An open listing agreement is considered express because the terms are clearly stated in writing rather than implied. It is unilateral because only one party makes a binding promise. Typically, the property owner promises to pay a commission if a buyer is produced, while the agent has no obligation to perform. It is also executory because the obligation has not yet been carried out, no buyer has been secured, and no commission has been earned. Only once those events occur does the contract move toward execution. Contracts signed by individuals who have been declared legally incompetent by a court are void from the outset. Because the person lacks the legal capacity to understand or consent, the contract has no legal effect and cannot be enforced by either party. This is different from a voidable contract, where the agreement is valid unless cancelled by one of the parties. Incompetency creates an absolute bar, making the agreement invalid regardless of intent. Inspection contingencies are included in contracts to protect buyers when material defects are discovered in a property. If the inspection reveals significant issues, the buyer has the right to terminate the agreement without losing their earnest money deposit. While the buyer may attempt to renegotiate the purchase price or request repairs, the essential legal protection is the right to walk away without penalty. This makes the contract voidable at the buyer's discretion when problems are found. The Federal Fair Housing Act covers most housing transactions but provides limited exemptions. One such exemption applies to private individuals who own no more than 3 single-family homes and rent them without using a broker. This exemption is designed to relieve small-scale landlords from the full scope of the Act's requirements. However, once an owner exceeds this threshold, or uses the services of a broker, the exemption no longer applies and the transaction is fully covered by the Act. Littoral rights are legal rights granted to landowners whose property borders non-flowing bodies of water such as lakes, ponds, or oceans. These rights permit reasonable use of the water and shoreline, provided it does not interfere with the rights of others. Littoral rights differ from riparian rights, which apply to flowing water like rivers and streams. In contrast, prior appropriation governs water rights in some Western states based on first in time, first in right, while subsurface rights concern minerals and resources beneath the land. Because the body of water in question does not flow, the controlling doctrine is littoral rights. Easements are a form of non-possessory interest in land that run with the land. This means they are tied to the property itself, not the individual owner. When a property subject to an easement is sold, the easement automatically transfers to the new owner. The person who benefits from the easement retains their rights, regardless of the change in ownership. No additional agreements, permissions, or transfers are necessary, and the easement is not terminated simply because the property is sold.